So let me introduce our first keynote speaker. Gabriel Izard. I'm going to read some notes from his bio. PhD at the Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona, devoted his professional career very close to the retail industry and academic institutions. During his professional career, he was for more than 15 years serving as technical director in ICOC. ICOC is the Spanish Association of Codification, with responsibilities in international committees where international standards for automatic identification of goods and for electronic information exchange were developed. Among his managerial responsibilities, it count his position of country manager in a multinational software company providing services for data synchronization among companies participating in different levels of the chain and other services. He is nowadays a market developer in a multinational service provider about barcode quality, and this activity is combined with a good position of associated professor at the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, covering marketing, retailing, operations management, and business in action topics. He teaches for study abroad and local students, and furthermore, he enjoys writing articles regularly in local journals and economic magazines, and also becoming an ICOC academia active member in many events and collaborating actions to promote the talent capture for the fast-moving consumer good sector. So I would like to thank Gabriel Izard for being here, also to thank to ICOC, the Spanish Association of Codification. The title of this speech is Private Delivery in Spain. He's going to give us a view of the situation of private delivery in Spain from a more business perspective than academic one, but I think that you are going to enjoy this conference and you are going to enjoy Gabriel. So thank you, Gabriel.
Okay, thank you. Juan Carlos y Paco, muchas gracias. Thank you very much. And also it's a pleasure for me to be here with this prestigious event on private level. Well, as you have heard, I'm a little bit relations with the university, but my approach would not be academical approach, would be more practical approach, or let's say more business approach. That's a little bit what I try to go through. So I'm not going to show you any statistics, any ANOVA, anything like that. I have an agenda, that is here. So as a framework, I think it's, well, all of you know about that, but I think it's interesting to put the things on place when we are watching the retail sector today in the world, right? So what are the changes? What are the situation? How the things are changing? That's the first point. Number two is why private brands? You are talking about private brands here all the time, but in the business perspective, why we have to talk with that? How they started, how they progress, what are the reasons for the success in the business perspective, right? And what are all the possible reactions from manufacturers and also the possible reactions from competition on retail sector. Then a quick look for the evolution of the private brands in Spain and the world in general, and some points of thinking about the future of the brands, thinking on the consumer behavior. What is the major change today? Okay? Yes? I'm sorry, sometimes I'm speaking very fast, so I can be slower if necessary, but it depends on my speed. Sometimes is not controlled, so I will try to control anyway. Well, you know, I'm sure you know the Deloitte report that is being released every year in February. So the data we have from this report is from 2017, but I try to fix not the description, but what are the main ideas we can see there regarding the trends on business, So the first idea is that the big players are bigger than ever before. That's nothing new, but that's like that. But to do so, one thing that happens is that the margin decrease. It's not as much bigger as was the year before. So we can thought about that. Why does it happen? The crisis or the competition? One possible vision is to see how many countries they are operating, right? So normally it's very interesting to observe the expansion of companies abroad. In this sense, the total of numbers of operations is being reduced, but they win more. So the idea is that it seems that the big players are more specialized on doing things better, but they are still suffering on the net profit margin today. That's a little bit the summary that can be seen in arrows. So I have done a small exercise here. And it's interesting, we compared the last year from the previous one, and we can see that how sometimes, in this case, for instance, the cumulative growth over the last 5 years was reduced, but not the last, but not the last one. Also, the aggregate retail revenue increased a little bit, so this means that, well, you know that they are analyzing the 250 larger companies, no? So that gives that chance, or the idea that the business is still in place in a good manner, but for doing that, that is really impressive how the composite net profit margin decreased last year. That's impressive. They decreased a lot. I don't have the reasons for that. Probably most of you can have your own reasons, but it's impressive to see that. And this happened. I think the most important thing, probably it's a theory, I don't know, it's more than a theory, an opinion, probably because I think it's because of the competition. And not only the competition on brick and mortars, but also for the internet. So internet or delivery things to at home is expensive. No one is talking about that. But it is really expensive, much more expensive to deliver something to home than to ask consumers to go to the store, because the consumers to go into the store is for free, but you have to deliver to his house. So something like that could be the reason. A good point for the academy to study, no? Why the net composite margin decrease. But if we talk about the revenue, last year increase. It decreased number of operations abroad, as I said to you before. Also, but the composite 5-year CRGR rate on revenues decreased, but not the last year. So it seems that it's in terms of growing, the companies are, as I said to you at the beginning, the biggest becomes bigger. Right? The big companies are bigger than ever. And either foreign operators decrease, but the revenues are not falling down as the activities. And finally, the composite return on assets, that means that it's being consolidated as before. Well, this is the list that is being shown in the report every year in February. I do recommend you to download this for free. I'm using that in my classes as well. I'm teaching retail in my classes, so that is one of the bases. And for the students, also it's very interesting to see not only who are in the list, but probably the numbers that you can see here. You know? The difference between the big one, Walmart, with the followers. Also, the margin you can see here very easy, 2% most of the cases, or in others, for instance, like the Home Depot, it's around 7%, 8%. So we can understand a little bit how is the business in retail, only based on this slide. I used to stay more than 1 hour with that only this slide in my classes, because it's quite interesting to see also the differences between sectors, or the differences between type of the margin, rotation, all that type of concepts. But I think one of the things that's important for this year is to observe that new players are in the first page of the list. For instance, GDCom from China. The Chinese are starting to be in the ranking. You know that is an online store like Amazon that we have here. Also, the margin on Amazon is very nice to see that it's very similar of the big players as well. So they're not, well, they don't have physical stores, but the cost for delivery is also high, right? So that's probably because they keep that type of margins. And also the leadership of the US, right? And here, most of the companies from the US. Interesting, the case of Ahold that was back a little bit on better positions, or Tesco in the UK, regarding the growings. Here you have the growing of last 5 years, and you see, for instance, in that page that there are some companies that, like Albertsons or either what I said to you before, GDCom, that are doing things well as in the process of growing. Well, we are in Spain. Who are the top leaders in the Spanish, in this list in the Spanish, from the Spanish side? Of course, number one is Inditex, that you can see here, with a very nice margin here, around 14%, and followed by Mercadona here with the distinction that it's a supermarket, it's an apparel company, so of course the margins are completely different. We are talking about private brands here. We can ask ourselves, so apparel sector, because private brands are not only in food. We can talk about private brands in any sector, right? Let me ask you a question. What is an Audi? A car, yeah. Well, nice car, isn't it? To be more precise. Very nice car, so people like to have an Audi in most of the cases. This is a private label of Volkswagen. Yes or no? Well, it's only for the debate. It's like a provocation. So Audi, nice car, but be careful. He's like a private label of a manufactured group that is called Volkswagen. If you can see like that, so it's like a provocation. Huh? Of course, so private brands could have a nice reputation of quality, because in this case, so we talk about apparel, these companies, Inditex, they are doing well, and all the brands that they are selling are not brands, are branded by themselves. They are having also, everything that they are selling there it belongs to them. Therefore, there's also private label in this sense. You don't find other brands except the ones that are from Zara, in the Zara, and they are doing well. As a matter of fact, the margins are good, the growing is good, the value of the company is good, and is, as you know, the owner of this company, one of the richest men in the world. Well, I don't know if you are proud of that or not in Spain, but it's like that. So they're doing things well. Well, we will see more about private labels. To sum up on this list of Deloitte, that is like the framework for discussion on what we're going to have later, is to compare what happened last year with the previous year, or to compare better in this case the top 10 over top 250. That's the total companies that they are analyzing here. And we are seeing that the top 10 are growing faster than the others. They reduce a little more the margin than the others. They have more growing or accumulated growth than the others. And there are more countries of operation. So again, we can say that the biggers are doing well, and that's probably the reason that they are biggest today. The big companies are doing well, and that's probably the reason that why they're doing well. Very interesting as well is this the share of the top 10 all over the world. So we are seeing that nowadays 31.6. A couple of days ago was 29. So there's still, as we are seeing, concentration on the market. Well, we can, of course, we can discuss a lot about that type of factors. Monopolistic situation, ethical situation, competition is better, worse, blah blah blah. So a lot of things to talk on that type of things. But what is clear is that things are changing, and the big players are either bigger than before. But not only in the world. This also happened in our country. Which is our country? It's Spain. Let's have a look on that in a second. Before that, this is interesting. This was released last year, not this year. I like to show you how the things are changing here as well. The blue colors are the one that is still on the second line. Only 4 companies maintain it after 10 years, or 15 years, sorry. In that sense, also how the Asia grows in comparison with the decrease of Europe or a little bit on America. So that's clear. It's like a picture of the world today. Okay, I was talking about big players. I said that, yes, that the big players are bigger than before, either in Spain. Kantar World Panel is offering us in an online system all the time the possibility to check how are the market share in Spain. And this is picked from December last year. And we are seeing that Mercadona, in terms of sales, is having 24%. 24%, that it's really 1/4 in the market in Spain. So it's a lot. One single company is doing like that. And who are the followers? Who you have here? So if you add the 3 followers together, are either less than the Mercadona. So the phenomenon of Mercadona is still an important one in Spain. And I pick up a little bit of historical data that we have from the evolution. Be aware that we have Carrefour as the first position for many, many years, but Carrefour was selling the Dia group. Dia is a member of Carrefour, well, Continente at the beginning, when it was merged, Continente with Carrefour in Spain as well. So they lost a lot in this sense. Mercadona in the year 2002 was only the half of the size that we are now. But if we go back a little bit more, 10 years before, they have, at that moment of time, only 4% of the market share. So Mercadona started, it was in the 90s. So it's tremendous is to see how was the evolution of that company. Either we have other groups here, Eroski and Auchan, that were also fighting as they can for getting that positions. Interesting to see the phenomena that we have here now with Lidl. That Lidl is also growing a lot in Spain in comparison with the rest of groups. So I don't know, it's an opinion, but some people, I can say that because it's an opinion. My opinion is that probably the best players today in general view in Spain are Mercadona and Lidl, because they are doing well as well. Of course, there are other important players. Some of them are here, and others that are playing well is the leaders in each region. So we have what we call regional leaders, no? Who have some brands that are very powerful because of this local situation. And so based on that, we can compare, I don't know, this evolution with the economy, and this is a question. So the question is, how was the economy in Spain? How you can relate the growing of the companies or the growing of the private brand with the evolution of the economy. This is a cause effect, probably not, but some explanation can be seen sometimes. About the GDP, we have seen that we progressed correctly either last years, but we suffer a lot, of course, with the mortgage crisis. And the most important effect was the unemployment. Okay, so from the middle of the first decade of this century, where we have very low rate, we're still a lot over that rate still in place. So the crisis in terms of unemployment in this country has not been overcome. It's also a problem that we are having. And this also, but for sure, has an effect on the choice of the consumer. So consumers going to the stores and have to decide, base it in many things, but also on the economy. Okay, let's go to the private brands. My question, why private brands? And I have a question for you. Let's go back to the early of the 19th. We didn't have private brands at the moment in Spain. Why do you think that any retailer, the one that we are growing, for instance, Mercadona was growing, starting, why they decide to go to the private brands? What do you think? What is the reason? The main reason? Yes, so it has to do with price a little bit. What else? Anyone else?
Increase margins.
Sorry?
Increase their margins.
Increase margins, yes. Also a little bit with price, but in this case on the business side. Someone else?
To fight with the suppliers.
To
The power, power against the suppliers.
So to have to compensate the balance power of the suppliers. Yeah, good. Someone else?
Maybe there is a decrease of national brand and there is enough room to occupy a new territory.
Aha. So it has to do with the capability for delivering products, no? Is what you mean? Yes.
Discounters started appearing as well. Like the hard discounters. At least
But
in Italy, that was the
yeah, but at that moment of time, the discounter, the most important discounter that we have in Spain was Dia. Dia, that is not the Dia that we know in the 90s, completely different of the Dia we have now. Nothing to do. It's completely, they changed completely. But anyway, thank you. That's very interesting. We are seeing different visions, but I like your vision. Sorry, because that's one of the main reasons. The main reason is because, okay, I'm growing, so I'm asking Nestlé, Unilever, or any other company, Procter & Gamble, to supply products to me, but they cannot guarantee that I can give it all the time, the products I need all the time, because I'm growing. So I have to assure that my assortment is fulfilling the requirements that I need for serving my clients. So how to do so? And then that's the thing. I need to assure that I have the capacity for supply products, to deliver products to consumers. So how to do so? One way is to create my own brand, copying, very similar of the brand of the manufacturer, the brand manufacturer, and based on that, let's see if I have the chance to ask different manufacturers to do my product. And in this sense, I will be able to have my olive oil, my detergent, my tomato cake shoot in a continuous manner. So it doesn't matter who have done that product. I have that product, so I put that. I'm assuring that there is enough offer for the future. And my possibility for growing in this sense is have not the limitation of the big players, no? Because these companies, I am very small, I am starting, so these companies, Nestlé, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, blah, blah, are very big, so I cannot depend on them, let's say, in this sense. So the image remains the same. I'm copying a little bit what they are doing, and I'm able to assure that I have no problems for offer. That's a little bit at the beginning. And this is said by these companies. I'm not inventing that. It's not, so I had the chance to talk with them and know them. And that's a little bit the beginning of the beginning in the private label. Then what happened is that in the 90s in Spain, again, we have suffering different situations, and some companies decide to use the private label not for that reasons. Use the private label for what you say, the price. No? The price. I want to reduce the price. I want to give products. Doesn't matter if they are good or, excellent or not. No? The quality is not the first thing. The first thing is the price. So what I need to have is a commitment with suppliers that I can produce that in a scale. What we have then is a scales economy. Good, more profit. Everything must be cheap. That's the model of discounter. You say discounters. Dia discounts. The invention of Dia concept was very interesting because they have a discount, a small discount in the neighborhood, in the center of the town. So it's not like the German discounters where they have to go by car. It's big, probably, 1,000 or 2,000 square meters. Dia concept at the beginning was 100 square meters in the middle of town, no service, nothing, either dirty, they don't have change, the employees were not well paid, They don't like to work there, but they were there. They don't know anything. They don't need to be trained because everything was done by the computer in the central office. So that's how it works at the beginning. Cheap, like, yeah, very cheap. There's not any merchandising design. Everything was in the shelf or on the boxes. A little bit like the image you are seeing behind here. It's not really nice. Consumer going there, it's like everything is in piles. I know, not really interesting. The focus was price, no more. Okay, let's progress. Next step. Well, this is a summary of what I said to you. So the board, the starting, and what they have done, allocation the states. What was the next step? Next step was, okay, we learn about producing, we learn about how to do the things. Let's see, there are two ways, two factors, two directions. Number one, price. I have talked about price. But why not talk about product or quality? Right? Let's see if we can work on the quality. And that's another thing. So the quality requires something very important. That's the engagement with the supplier. Yeah? So you need to have that engagement. So if the supplier, the big supplier, or the big manufacturers don't want to have the type of commitment, okay, what the retailers have done, they look for another one. And the point is that because of that, a lot of small companies, suppliers, that get that chance to work together with the retailer, in this long-time relationship, they grow up a lot. We have nice examples. One example is the one that I show you here. Well, you're not from here, but Casa Tarradellas, there's the pizza offering, that was a company, a small company. They were really a small company located nearby Barcelona, Vic, a place very interesting, but a small company. And they made sausages. And they have an agreement with Mercadona. And nowadays is really one of the leaders of the market and doing things very well. They grow up a lot, a lot. How they have done it? Because they accept to work together with the retailer with this compromise of doing quality products in a good price. So the idea is that besides that, the conception of the customer was the private label is a cheap thing. Besides that, this is on mind because during all the many years that was the message being said to the consumers, price, price, price. Besides that, the idea is that, oh, but I have good products. I don't realize very much that they are good, but they were good because there was this type of commitment. In Mercadona, for instance, what they developed in that moment of time is a concept of interproveedores. They have around 100 suppliers that were doing that products for them, and they are working together to have in any type of sector. No? They try to give this value, and the success of the private label based on price was reduced. No, the people were going less to Dia because they find, oh, Dia is really dirty. I don't like to go there. Or also Dia have another type of problems. Not only the only thing, but but in this sense, there is a chance for doing things like that. Okay, so interesting view, quality and comparison of price. Huh? So okay, the slide was this. Well, it doesn't matter. So what happened later is what I just mentioned to you. There is a dichotomy. So Carrefour, for instance, realized that, oh my God, I have to speed up going back to the quality, not only about prices. Or we have other examples that appearing, and by chance or not, I mean, because of the evolution of the history or the evolution of the economy, this happened in the middle of the first decade. So, when the crisis start, no? So we received the crisis of the economic crisis in the world, and therefore this concept of private brand was taking force as far as they are solving the problem of the price, but also with the quality. So the idea is that, well, what was in fashion is the low cost, no? We were traveling in low cost, everything low cost. The concept of a smart consumer, no? A smart consumer. What is a smart consumer? It's the people that, okay, you see, I'm expecting that I get that offer, you see, and it's good price, and it's good quality, and also not I'm expecting that, right? So that way that happens in this period of time. So people prefer to go in a more, let's say, getting the value on the product than just going to that because of the brand. So as a result of that, the idea is that we have this large proportion of private brands in Spain. In some companies like Mercadona, more than 50%, others less, but we are in the top in the world regarding the private brands. And also there is a discussion because at that moment of time, some of the leaders of manufacturers leaders were also working in associations like Promarca and others, fighting against the private label. They say, okay, we are not producing for the distributors, we are manufacturers, we are pure, we know everything how to do. So in Spanish we have a word, zapatero tus zapatos, no? You are doing shoes, do your shoes and no more. Well, there is a big fight, and also some companies were publishing that, yeah, we are not doing brands for others. Today this is completely out of scope. The idea is that doesn't matter the product where it is being produced. The idea is how this is produced, and at the end of the day, how this has been delivered to consumer. It's interesting to see, for instance, there are some authors, like the one I mentioned here, Fernando Olivares, that we're talking, there is not obligation to explain where the products came from, but at the end of the day, the debate now is another one. It's not if private brands or national brands, the debate is transparency. That's the title of the thing, transparency. So it doesn't matter who produced the product, but please tell us who is, right? And there are either the possibility for the manufacturers to outsource. I'm outsourcing not only the transportation, the logistics, or the organization, or whatever, the computer that is in the cloud, I don't know, but also to outsource the production. If someone have the skills for doing better than I have to build a new factory, so how to do so? I'm going to find or to look for the best, no? So either we are seeing that it's not necessarily expand all the time, but there are a lot of manufacturers, they are not doing the products in their own factories. The products could came from any different places in the world. This could be done in the fast-moving consumer goods, but can be done in electronics, could be done in many different places. Good. How do you feel? Yes? Can we progress? A little bit more? So that's a summary of things that I have said to you, and let's have an analysis or view of the private brands in the world, and Spain in the world. So the result of that is here. I get that from Nielsen very recently, where we have the vision that either in the beginning of the 2000, we have 15%. Most of the brands that we were here in the private brands came for the reason I mentioned to you. That was at the beginning of the 90s and at the middle of the 90s. And with when the crisis exploded, that it was here, the private brand started to grow up a little bit more. And we have some type of maturity here, also a little bit of decrease, but keeping this portion in a very high manner. Also, we can see regarding the value of the evolution of the value. So in some cases also, in 2017, for instance, here, we are seeing that either in April, we are seeing that the value of the manufacturer brand was a little bit higher, but this is not always like that. So the evolution of the distribution brand is really impressive in this sense. this is a little bit the general data. Well, one thing to be said, my slides are going to be to the organization. I think will be for everyone, right? No problem. So no problem to do pictures, but beware you have as well. These 90s, in the 90s, the beginning of the 90s, we have 5% of the private label, and nowadays, as you are seeing, we have 40% around. Who are doing private labels? Mainly in Spain. Lidl, Mercadona, Dia as well, and others that are here mentioned, like Carrefour or Consum. And in terms of market share of the private level, 100% on the private level, Mercadona is also the winner here, with Lidl and Dia doing a good thing. So that's a little bit how it is, right? The result of what I explained to you before. The picture is that we are very dominant, and we can see that in a more general view. In Europe also, we'll see later, next slide for country. Let's go back. For countries, we have here Spain, cooperation 2014 and 16. We are seeing that there are not big differences in more, let's say, mature countries. There are not big differences in more mature countries, where the smaller countries like Italy that have, someone from Italy here, right? Yes. Yeah. Do you agree on that numbers? Do you agree on that numbers? Do you think you had discussed before? I was not here. Sorry for my, sorry. But so probably there is a way to that can answer that. But of course, there's a lot of opportunity in Italy for the private banks anyway, because I don't know, the things are going to change later on. So that's a little bit my view on this slide is that the more mature, let's say, countries on using the private brands are the less possible to grow in terms of the future. But be aware that, for instance, in the US, that's from the US, from Nielsen, that says that the most important growing in terms of dollars, no, in terms of sales on the market are against the top brands and the private brands. No? So either in the US, the phenomena is very important. A lot of work to do in there as well, but the growing is there. Latin America or other countries that are not probably as developed as the European now, or the American, is a lot of path to go, and we can ask ourselves why. No? But anyway, an also interesting point, no time for analyzing all in deep. Another interesting concept is the difference between the price of the private label in comparison of the price of the national brand, no? Or manufacturer brands. It's interesting to see how, for instance, typical countries like Germany, where private brands were playing a role of alternative. No? So after the Second World War, a lot of discounters were produced there, and they used the private brand probably as well the cheaper price, right? For cheap, and the difference is still remaining. No? It's complicated to change on the mind of the consumer that the position of a brand, in this case the private brand, is complicated to change very fast. But these differences is interesting to be seen as well in terms of customer choice. And going to the end of my presentations, we can ask, so what can talk? We talk about private brands, manufacturer brands. What can we talk about the key points for the brands for the future, right? The idea is, let me just show you a couple of slides regarding the top brands in the world. There's for interbrand analysis, brands that are more valuable brands. No? Interesting to see that in the list top 10, there is only Coca-Cola as a fast-moving consumer goods. The others are electronics or digital world or either cars. This is something that was released the day before yesterday about the most valuable brands in retail. Well, we can have a lot of discussion if necessary about that. Amazon takes the role of the first one. But let me just go to a little bit more about this classical marketing scheme where we talk, okay, the people, at the end of the day, what they have to do is experience, right? And in this sense, I found that very interesting to show you also a Nielsen chart where we compare what the market share with the price, the winners. So you see that this analysis of Nielsen, right? So that where they have more, let's say, more brands in this quarter. So it's like, okay, again, what I just saying to you, the price is not really an issue today in the private brands. The issue probably is the quality. What are the brands that are growing more in private brands nowadays? The expensive, not the cheapest. Wow. So probably that's true. That's what I said before. That at the end of the day, the private brands is playing a role in the consumer brand, no? Brain. Huh? Good. Going to then also about the next trends or the more important growing. I get that from Kantar World Panel, a presentation that has been done recently about the category of products that were growing more in Spain last year. They talk about premium beer, coffee capsules, gourmet soup, so like very special products that required, let's say, a little bit of effort from the consumer side. No, they are not, well, capsules, coffee capsules. So we can have capsules, but we can have another way that's cheaper with a classical Orale Italian coffee machine, right? But that's no, but people prefer that. Or pre-meal, pre-prepared meal, or for instance, for salads, for chicken, for soups. All of these categories are growing up, and I spent a little time to see if we have products in private brands that are doing that, and the answer is yes. And I put some pictures here. For instance, this is from Walmart. You have capsules from Walmart, 100 of them. Or you have here chicken nuggets, or you have Mercadona salads with the very nice flowers in the middle. So you have really flowers, salad flowers as a private brand in Mercadona nowadays. Come on. So, or this also chocolate, nice chocolate that you can have as well. So the idea is that besides that, I like to observe here that this new product introduction over the last from 2012, 2016, the contribution of the private brands for the new products decreased a little bit, or decreased a lot. That probably means that at the end of the day, probably the retailers, or like Mercadona, last movement that happened here, this has been announced a couple of months ago, they changed the concept of relationship with suppliers. They have these 110 inter-suppliers. Now they decide not to do any more like that. And they open to 1,000 suppliers this relationship for brands. The reason for that is they say that we want to have a good supplier for each product. We cannot have a category suppliers. So in these 110 inter-suppliers they have one inter-supplier that is good, for instance, for anything that has to do with bread. But probably they are not good for croissants, that is in the category of bread. So let's have a look on the specialists on croissants to do so anyway. That's not true because Mercadona is producing the bread by themselves. But it's like a good example. No? Let's see if they can find the good supplier for each product itself, not the category, and then they open the concept that instead of saying I have my private brand, I say I have the best product. Doesn't matter who have done and doesn't matter what is the brand. That's the idea. So In this sense, is what I said to you before. I think that when in Spain particularly, we reach certain mature situation of the private brand, and I don't think would be higher in the future. Probably will keep like that or reduce. But the concept that are behind that is, first, as a retailer, I have products. Number two, I have products and quality, and also number three, in a good price. These three concepts can be done either with private brands or with other type of brands. They call exclusivity. And what is the consumer in the future? I pick up as well as a good example. For instance, healthy. What is health in terms of products? At the beginning, healthy was without. We have no sugar, Coke. Okay, this is healthy, it's good for health. But we say, no. But we want to have a little bit more in the milk because we need omega-3. So now we change without, with. No, but we want to have now natural products. So it means alone, no other thing that what is used, not additives, not anything, without milk, without anything. And nowadays, it seems that what is in fashion, or that probably is more complicated to be managed for private brands, is back to basics. So go to the local. So kilometer zero products. How you can manage kilometer zero products with a private brand. It's very complicated, but now is more either organic products, but in kilometer zero, so just in the corner of my house. So it's very complicated, but it's a change. No? People like, especially young people, like to work on that because have to do certain interests in terms of sustainability, no? To reduction of the sustainability. Let me give you a couple of more slides. These are like, at the end of the day, we need to have efforts for creating brands, and all these things must be considered on those efforts for manufacturers and for retailers, for anyone that is working on products. Oops. And also the customer loyalty is something that must be worked in an everyday basis, right? So we talked that Gartner slide. We are seeing that the quality is something that is the real thing to be considered, and other aspects are less, let's say, they are more volatile. They can be changed in a very fast manner. In this sense, we can talk about the new consumer, and the new consumer is basically, and I saw someone talking about e-commerce or buying online. Let me just show you that not the new, but the leader of the private brands today, this company is the one that are really doing private brands and many different category of products. Okay, I pick up some of them. If we're discussing about private brands, we can discuss as well on this online buying activity. And also, just as a funny thing, I pick up from this web page, what are the demands, the ideas, no? So you want to invest in something regarding private brands. I don't know where they get from, but it's like someone that is promoting that type of products as an idea. So why not? Better bottles or smart backpacks or terrariums or things like that can be used for success in the business and private brand. Okay, so sorry for this type of less rigorous topics, but that's what I want to just summarizing, thinking that the important thing is to be sure that you have product in good conditions for consumers. Okay, so that's a little bit my talk. Thank you very much. Questions or disagreements or agreements? Yes, please.
I have a question for you because our situation in Italy is a little bit different because we are weak in terms of private label. But
Okay, they are registering.
okay. What about self-production? So retailers are producing themselves in Spain their private labels or not? Or they tend to reinforce partnership with external producers so
When
co-packers
you mean
which are
production is where is the product? So is the owner,
self-produced by the retailer itself. So
No,
with
no,
their,
most of the cases are outsourced. Yeah, most of the cases are not. I mean, they
it's
look
not an
for-
emerging trend
No, they are-
in Spain.
Sorry,
It is not an emerging trend for you. This
I don't think not. I mean, I think they look for a supplier that is skilled for doing that type of things, and if necessary, they can invest. For instance, sometimes we are seeing that retailers are investing for companies that for I don't know for meat process or for vegetable process, things like that. Sometimes happen, and they have their own going to in there, but. On the other side, if you have a contract with a retailer like that, big one, Carrefour's or Mercadona's or that one, and you go to and you need to invest for a new factory, I don't know, in that big investment, and you go into the bank for asking for a mortgage, they ask for, but who is your client? And you tell about that, and you show the contract. Normally, it's not a problem to get money.
Okay.
That normally.
Thank you.
Yes. More questions, comments. This happened like that in Italy? You asked that because in Italy...
A couple of retailers in Italy are introducing this kind of activity. For
In
example,
what
we
type
have Esselunga, for example,
So
which is
what
which
product
is
they're doing by themselves?
for fresh pasta, for example,
fresh pasta.
bakery.
Bakery.
They are producing themselves
Oh,
with
yeah,
their.
yeah. Well, I forgot that. Yes, in terms of bread, for instance, the largest manufacturer of bread in Spain is Mercadona. That's true. Yeah, they're doing that by themselves. There are some type of products that they are strategical for them. So in each logistic block, they have, well, not in each, but some of them, they have this own factory and they produce. They can sell 2 baguettes per less than €1 because they are doing by themselves. That is very impressive in terms of competition. So other bakeries don't like it.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You mentioned
Sorry.
Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that now the basic, they are a return to the basics. I'm coming from France, and I noticed that in the private labels, there are an increasing market for all the basics, private labels, like biological products, and now we are dealing also with a 0 kilometer, because today, all the distribution chains are collaborating with local producers to present their products as labeled with the private labels, you know. But what's the maybe this point in Spain?
It depends of the type, the category of product. But for instance, sorry to talk again about Mercadona, but it's like an obligation in this case. For instance, they produce, let's take the example, fish. So they convert the way on how they were selling fish about I don't remember exactly, 5-10 years ago, to the going to look for big players on for fishing. For instance, going to Namibia or South Africa, places like that, and they pick up like big amount of fish, and they go. And it's very interesting because they were selling that from Zaragoza, in the middle of not fish area. They had a chance for the logistics and all that. And they change, and they approach to the fishermen that are all the coast. Spain is a really important country regarding coast. We have coasts all over, except the pass of Portugal. So they have done an important work, important daily basis, to approach to the in Spanish, Confradía de Pescadores. How do you say that in English?
Confederación de Federación.
Well, to approach them and to be sure that they can work with us fishermen that are picking the fish from the Mediterranean Sea, for instance, in a certain guarantee. And so they have, in the different stores where they have, fish that came from the coast that is nearby. And so they had to reorganize the logistics as well, and they're working on this like kilometer zero thing, and they have done it well. And also they work with the suppliers in a project that they want to integrate the best practices as well on the supplier side for for not the suppliers of the suppliers, so the people, the farmers and things like that. Probably it's hard to be seen that for the consumer, but they have a lot of, probably there are much more things to be done. Of course, there's one problem, the scale. No? In this sense, when they changed the policy regarding suppliers recently, they say, okay, I can accept local suppliers more than before. So I don't require two suppliers to be sure that they can sell to all the stores. They have around 1,800 stores all over the territory. So you become a supplier of Mercadona, and suddenly you have to afford that. Nowadays they are not demanding like that. So they are doing certain activity in that sense as well. Yeah. Yes, good point. Someone else? Yes, there. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel, for a very interesting presentation. I'm Belén, I'm from Spain, so I...
You know very well what I talk about.
Well, we presented this morning a research on innovation, and we talked a lot about Mercadona and Lidl. Okay, my question is, you mentioned the private label, Amazon private label, and the question is, how do you think the pure online retailers use the private label as a tool, as a strategic tool, different from brick and mortar retailers?
Yes, it's a very good question, this one. I think more and more, because they have the same type of necessity. They have to be able to deliver products to the consumer. Mm-hmm. So if they see a demand, if they are not having a supplier, they will do by themselves, let's say, in a certain way. I think also the future. When anyone is having Amazon Prime, for instance, facility for buying anything, they don't care about the brand. They are buying to Amazon Prime and they get the service and they get it home the following day in a good price. And it doesn't matter who is the manufacturer at all. For any type of thing, I'm talking generally speaking. Not always, but I think it is something that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, the important is that they have the chance for delivering products as well. Yeah. So you go to the Amazon Prime catalog, it's enormous. It's amazing. Yeah.
And with regard to the price gap between private label and manufacturer brands in these, for example, Amazon or these brands, is it the same? Or?
I never studied in depth that, but I think there is also a gap because but must be reduced in the future. If there is any, must be reduced because at the end of the day, manufacturers are discovering a way to sell products. Let me talk about ICOC for a second. ICOC is a non-profit organization. We are member of ICOC is member of GS1. GS1 is the organization that has more than 100 countries on the world and that manage the barcoding system, right? So for getting a barcode, that standard barcode, you need to be registered on any GS1 association in Spain, ICOC. Last year was the year where ICOC gets more new entrants, net and brut and gross. Why? Because of Amazon. So the number of associates on ICOC is very high, around 30,000. A lot of companies. Associate is a company. And the highest rate ever been get in the ICOC as a new members was last year, either in this mature situation. Why that? And the answer is because Amazon. Amazon is demanding what is being called the GTIN. I don't know if you know what GTIN is. It's the Global Item Trade Number. That's the number being used for the barcode. So they require a GTIN for have a clear database. They are not reading really the barcode already, but they want to have Amazon choose worldwide the GTIN as an index of his file. To assure that they're not matching products from one side to another. And the idea of the GTIN is that it's a real standard worldwide because in Spain we have 84, in Italy they have 80, in France 32, in England, in the UK they have 50, or in Germany 42. I have some in memory, but yeah. So the prefix is like a way to organize the index of the database. So there's a phenomenon that no one can foresee, right?
This is really interesting because it means that competition is increasing.
Yeah, and small
Newcomers, no?
and the small companies have the chance to sell everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
So some people say, "Oh my God, e-commerce is for the big players." No, it's for the small one. They have a chance for selling things any place. Well, you have to go in the marketplace anyway. You have to be to Amazon or another place like that. Yeah. Yes.
I wanted to
Well,
mention.
you have to use the microphone. Yes, right.
I think we should add another factor, and this is the logistic and distribution. You mentioned there is a problem of distribution. I think private label, I don't know how it's in Spain, but usually they need a logistic center and much more logistic to perform well. And the internet, whatever, all the technology together as favorable for online and private label. I don't know how it's in Spain.
Well, the point is that online on grocery is starting. We have experience from Carrefour, or Alcampo, certain places, and now Mercadona built up what they call la colmena. How is in English? Colmena is. Huh? Yeah. So they build up a couple of them, one in Valencia, and now they started this week in Barcelona. They started, I think on Tuesday, and in 3 districts, and they are able to have distribution as well at home by online system, so very, very efficiently. So there's a growing on that in the future, and also, of course, these big players have to be organized to fight against, let's say, against other players like Amazon, or other systems that are taking place now with global or other type of distributions that are able and they are in place. So in my opinion, let me again go in my opinion, this also will have a limitation. And the limitation is what you say, the logistics. We cannot put all the big cities, plenty of vans, bicycles or whatever, fighting each other to see what is the first to arrive to the place. That is very expensive and also insecure, right? So we have to see how we're going to be organized.
Now they are using the flying one to.
Yeah, as well.
So that's maybe.
Well, we don't know, but this I think is this is starting, and for sure we'll have a moment for that will be, controlled, in a certain way. Yes. Any other comment? Yes, there. So I don't know. Last comment or some? You can have a couple more. Okay.
Yeah, last question.
Okay.
I was just going back to the percentages of private label, and you were mentioning obviously like Italy with 18%, which is in line with what we explained in our paper and what also our colleagues from Italy were explaining. I think something which was coming from the research of our colleague from Italy is that small, medium-sized enterprises, the brands of these companies are growing in Italy. So I was just wondering whether the space that has been taken in the UK and in Spain by private label, maybe that space is now taken in Italy instead of by private label, because particularly by older generations are not very well accepted. Maybe it's taken instead by small, medium-sized companies that are generating new brands that are competing with the big brands. Because you were wondering about like the fact that there may be a gap in some of the countries, and indeed, probably it's the case, but also there could be different solutions that are coming to the market. Just a suggestion, consideration.
That's also important, the generation gap that we are seeing here. Of course, in Spain, we have the chance for let's say, the generation of mature people, no? Let's say people that can go to the store. When we have the crisis, the economical crisis, that the people were, the smart consumer were the people that was in certain age, and now they don't want to resign, no? So people, at the beginning, when people went to the private label brand in Mercadona, the beginning was, I don't know if we could or not, you see why. But nowadays, the people is passionate on that, so you cannot buy another thing. Because another thing is interesting is that because it's easy, so the consumer is lazy, don't want to change. If the things are working, don't move, right, like that, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so again, thank you very much.